And welcome. The sports writers from the Salem News are here. I'm Bill Newell from MSO News Sports. Phil Stacy, sports editor of the Salem News, and Matt Williams, Nick Giannino, and Nick Kukuru, the Gloucester Times sports editor, are here. So, gentlemen, here we are coming to the end of the month of June, or moving into the second half of the month of June, and still no sports locally, but possibly some sports this summer. What are we hearing?
Yeah, I mean, phase two, people are practicing, and phase three, the games will begin. So we're waiting on that. Phase part two of phase two, I guess, started today, and the governor wants, I guess, already wants 2 weeks of data on indoor stuff before he hits phase three. So I don't know if that means phase three, July 6th. Or if that pertains only to indoor stuff, if outdoor stuff is going to be fine. It's all very misleading, but everybody is planning on the June 29th phase three as far as their games go. The new Essex County Baseball League, which is sort of replacing Legion Ball, they are scheduled for June 29th to begin. I know several little leagues are scheduled for that same thing. The North Shore Baseball League Men's League is hoping to open on July 6th. So they're going to give it an extra week. I know part of the reason for that is that part of the regulations is that everybody who practices has to be under 18. So for the men's leagues, for them to practice for a week and then play on July 6th makes sense. They won't be able to get out there in groups and practice until the 29th when phase three hits. So that was a little strange. I have heard some gripes from some of the youth sports organizers, because the groups, when they group age groups, right, as far as who's allowed to play and who's not, if you're 18, if you're 19, in other words, there are seniors in high school that just turned 18 that are still eligible for different youth sports things. And, the governor decided 17 was the thing. So, there are seniors in high school that technically aren't supposed to be out there and could get people in trouble, which is kind of messed up. So that was probably a little bit of a loophole that, they didn't open when they did the phases. But, hey, I mean, there's so many details. They couldn't have got everything perfectly right? But, I got a chance to spend some time at Essex Tech hockey rink this past week, just watching some of the kids play and practice. I mean, they're not play. Well, I mean, they're playing. They're not allowed to play games, right? But they're out there. They're having fun, and to see the different things in place. And we saw pictures from the practices for the Essex County Baseball League too. So things are happening. As far as I know, no one has come down ill, and everything's been kosher and been copacetic. So that's encouraging to see.
Bill, we heard a little engine in your yard there. It sounded like you were on a motorcycle for a moment, but you're not Zooming today from a motorcycle, right?
I am not. I have never been on a motorcycle, so that would be tough for me to Zoom the first time I was on a motorbike. Now, just regular traffic outside here in God's country. Beautiful day, so why not get outside? And I've been off work this week, but I have been obviously following what's going on. And it was good that Willie was able to get out to the rink early this week. Talked with Scott Hentosh, who helps run some of those drills. He must have been there, Willie, when you went over there, right?
Henny and Chris Nagy was over there.
Chris,
and,
yeah.
Julie Conrad, their director of figure skating. Of course, there's figure skating too going on. It's not just hockey. And, Julie does a great job. The hockey players will take figure skating classes to work on their technique. And also figure skaters themselves are out there. That's obviously a sport where it's really easy to socially distance, when you're doing your loops and your axles and things like that.
And for the baseball, it's good to hear. I love that they have this league now for kids who missed out on the spring season for baseball. If we can make that happen, that would be fantastic, and most importantly, get through it without any hiccups. I think, not everybody is in agreement with what the governor has done and whatnot, but I think slow and steady is the way it's got to be here. When I do talk to different people involved in high school sports, some are very confident they'll at least be the start of all sports come late August, early September. Others are a little more cautious, thinking that some such as cross country or golf or maybe even volleyball could start where others may have a delayed start. But I feel like I say this every week on here, but it's really anybody's guess. It's really day to day in how we handle these things. And it is great to see that our state at least has taken a lot of the necessary precautions needed to help slow the spread of this disease, this virus, I should say. And hopefully that will continue and we can get back to some sense of normalcy in the sports world.
Well, I think too, as we've discussed a number of times, I think here too is that I think the high schools will take some cues. They won't take necessarily the final guidance, but what other levels are doing, colleges, professional sports. I mean, it's not that it's not connected in some way. And then of course you got what could be happening on the ground in Massachusetts in particular, and with the schools in particular as well, as we've discussed many times here before. But it is kind of interesting to see how the other sports are playing around, and really they haven't started yet, and who knows when they will resume. NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and then we have Dr. Fauci saying in the last 24 hours that it may not be good for football resume in the fall, NFL. So that
that's another thing. The 7-on-7 football's set to go July 25th at Bishop Fenwick, so it's safe as far as they're concerned. And this is the problem I think the high schools are going to have is that, at least from a PR standpoint, it's like, provided we don't see a lot of destruction or whatever, if it's safe to be playing 20 baseball games in 30 days out here in July for these kids, then why wouldn't soccer in September be safe? It doesn't really stand up to reason. So knock on wood, if these people can set the example and stay safe, how can you say that something else isn't safe? That wouldn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
I think it's more the contact that they feel like that soccer provides, or field hockey, or especially football, where you have a lot of one-on-one type encounters and things like that, where in baseball you really wouldn't have that necessarily. That would be my guess.
I think we're going to have soccer in phase 3, town soccer, and, hockey, certainly they're hoping for games in phase 3. So, I think it's a real great thing that these things can get going, and as long as it's safe, it could set the example for what we should see, because as we know, I've talked about it before, there's a big talent drain. So if you shut down high schools for a whole year and these other programs that are already taking talented kids anyways are running, well, the other things are closed. I mean, that's just doesn't seem to me to be a recipe for success for the high school game going forward.
I think the high schools still need to take their cues from Governor Baker and his staff, and because they don't even know what they're going to be doing in the fall, I think it's kind of hard to say athletically what's going on. I mean, now, granted, everyone I talk to says that, plans are being formulated as we speak. I already have a ton of schedules, and I don't really see a lot of diversions from what we'd normally see as far as schedule of games or traveling and things like that. But, they have to take their direction from the top in this case. And I don't know if it's going to be back to school as normal as we think of it, if it's going to be a combination of remote learning and in-school learning, maybe switching off every other day. I don't know what's going to happen. And whatever the schools decide at the high school level, that's going to affect the sports, certainly.
Yeah. Nick Kukuru, were you going to say something earlier?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's just up, someone goes out there and, takes the lead and everybody sees, a successful product out there. I think we might see the domino kind of drop and see everybody kind of take the reins off and, be willing to go out there. I think it's been great to see actually a lot of sports kind of wanting to take that lead, particularly baseball.
Well, and to Phil's point with all the scheduling and so on, if you're a Massachusetts athletic director at the high school level, you're making plans, your schedules are set, you're ready to go whenever, as scheduled, if you will. If that might be redundant, but you have it all set to go, and the only thing that would stop you is if you come to August and there's some other data or information, word from the schools, word from the governor, whatever, the commissioner of education, that things have to be different, from the MIAA. All of these governing bodies could put the halt on it, just like they did back in March on the 18th, 19th, or whenever it was in March of this year. So they're all making the plans to see if we can start, on time. I'm sure that would be the hope. But
I think another thing they said yesterday on the MIAA TMC meeting that the max preps, we're not going to seed by max preps this fall. They're going to delay it. There was some vociferous discussion about delaying it for the entire year, and they decided let's delay it for the fall, keep it in place for the winter and the spring, hoping that those go off. But I kind of took that as a tacit sign that perhaps we may have some sort of a limited season in the fall. Just pure speculation on my part, but like if you are not able to play, max preps is like RPI. It's like the pairwise rankings in college hockey, right? Like if you look at it halfway through the year and at the end of the year, it's going to be very different. So in other words, the power seedings might not be so hot if you don't have a full sample size. So I wonder if, maybe in some way that's some sort of underlying sign that maybe the number of games could be limited in the sense that they don't want to roll out a new seeding thing with many, many other potential changes and hurdles already in the mix. I thought that was interesting.
well, I mean, just to fill in on that point for our listeners is that the max prep seeding formula was going to be used on for the first time to seed this year's tournament, because it will have more impact when they revise the playoffs the following year. So this was supposed to be the trial year of having it work or implementing it. So that is significant news, Matt, as you're pointing out, for sure. I think, yeah.
Interesting, yeah.
I think, getting back to the point that we made earlier about athletic directors coming up with a lot of different plans and whatnot, I think leagues themselves probably have to come up with some kind of plan as to what if it's discovered that an athlete in whatever sport, could be varsity, could be sub-varsity level, gets sick. You'd think that the player has to quarantine, the entire team would have to quarantine. Would their opponents then have to quarantine? Would the league then have to quarantine? How would that work? Would it just shut down for 2 weeks and they just pick back up? I think there are all these variables that, none of us 4 months ago would have even dreamed of, now have to be taken into account. And even if things get the go-ahead, say in late August or early September, it's stuff that they're going to have to think about. So I think a lot of the summer will be spent trying to come up with contingency plans based on all kinds of different scenarios. I guess much like we're seeing these pro leagues do, whether it's hockey, baseball, basketball, whatnot.
Well, the other thing to Phil's point, Phil, is that, like if you look at the pro sports, they have funds to pay for lots of testing, contact tracing, all of that. They have basically deep pockets to pull that off and try to make it safe and try to do it right. It's not going to be the same with the high schools. They won't have an unlimited budget to try to pull this off. And like you said, all it takes is for a JV player, some player in one school, playing a sport to be coming down, and then you've got your team. And you're right, then that team basically in essence would have in possibility would have to sit out for 2 weeks quarantine. You're right. And those
pro players will be sequestered, and the high school kids won't be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think it's another world. And, colleges can do what that's why I think I was kind of mentioning this a week ago or 2 weeks ago, is that, even in college football, for example, divisions 1, 2, and 3 will probably all play out differently, or could possibly, because 1 has a lot of resources, 2 has some resources, Division 3, it's a little closer to it's a little more, student athlete driven kind of athletics, and they may not, they're not going to have the resources, if you will, or the desire to interrupt the players, their academics and whatever for all of this testing and stuff, or quarantining or whatever to impact the schedules. Travel.
Yeah, I don't want to come across like the voice of doom when I bring these things up. by any stretch. I mean, if there's anybody that wants to see these sports back, I'm in that group very much so. I just tend to think that there are many more variables that need to be thought of and thought out before we can just say, all right, football practice starts August 19th or whatever day that is, and let's hope everything works out well. You're going to have, it's almost like, teaching a kid how to tie their shoes and then triple lacing them. They stay tied. You got to triple check everything and go over everything super closely.
On the plus side, we don't have to worry about salary cap or, high schools paying their players around here like the MLB. I mean, geez, that thing is getting dragged on like I've never heard before.
Plus, Nick Giannino, we haven't heard much from you, Nick, but I know you're working on a vaccine. You're working on, all kinds of different medicines to intervene with the virus and so on. While
I'm making some progress in the bedroom lab over here. Yeah, so we'll see. A couple more months, maybe.
Anyone can take it after that.
I don't have much to add. I think, us as reporters, us as fans, we don't know any more than the average person, and it's more of just a wait and see, process at this point. I don't really have much to add to it. I'm optimistic. I think it's that we're definitely trending in the right direction, and it's great that we can get out there now and play, golf. As a golfer myself, obviously you guys probably don't care as much, and baseball is getting back out there, the hockey practices. So these are all good signs, I think, moving forward, especially if the key thing here is to get the fall sports rolling. If we can get some kind of summer leagues going, that's great. But really what we're striving for is to get these fall sports back in action with the high school kids, right? I mean, so a couple more months, I guess we'll just wait and see if we keep trending in the right direction and they can come up with some good plans, then should be able to make some sports work at least. That's how I feel.
This fall, they'll all be starting to play. Everything will be going well, and then something will happen with like a mosquito or something.
Right? Yeah. We still got 6 months of 2020, so something else is bound to happen here.
That's true. Yeah, something we have no idea what it would be. Yeah. Hey, Phil, maybe, and you guys can weigh in on this too. Phil, the Moynihan Lumber Student Athlete of the Year award ceremony would normally be held around this time of year, but they're not having it, and they are the group is naming the two athletes of the year, student athletes of the year, next week. That'll be coming out next week, and so that's so the awards and the process continues on. But maybe we could just talk a little bit about that in that program. And geez, I should have my notes here better prepared, but it's been going on for quite a few years now on the North Shore.
I think that the winners have been announced already, right? I mean, it's not like it's a secret or anything like that. I believe
the two winners have been announced. Yeah,
they know.
Okay.
So it's Indy Injimi from Beverly High School is the female recipient, and Tyler Godfrey from Triton Regional, the great baseball and hockey player there, is the winner up there. I do miss those luncheons. The year-end luncheons are always a great time up at Salem Country Club, where Gerard and Jack Moynihan pull out all the stops and really do a nice job with the presentation, the lunch, the awards, whatnot. The lunch is probably a good thing for my current weight loss, but other than that, I miss the luncheon itself, because it's a great chance to connect with a lot of old friends and coaches, and get to meet with the winners and their families. But we are going to be having a pseudo celebration of both of them as best we can in these days. Willie, what was that phrase that Matt Jenkins always used to say? In these difficult times, what did he say?
Tough times, I think it was. Yeah.
In these tough times, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to be going to each of their respective high schools, up in Byfield to Triton for Tyler, and over at 100 Sawyer Road in Beverly for India on Tuesday, and present them with trophies and a scholarship check for winning this year's Student Athlete Award. Bill, you did mention it's gone back a long time. I think the first year we gave this away was 91-92. And longtime Peabody mayor Ted Betancourt was the first male winner out of Peabody. And Lauren Maney of Linfield was the first female winner. And since then, God, we've had Olympic medalists. We've had pro baseball players, pro hockey players. Of course, I'm speaking Shalane Flanagan as the Olympic winner, Matt Antonelli as the #1 baseball pick and made it to the pros, and Colin Blackwell now, who plays for the Nashville Predators, was a winner. And that's just some of the winners we've had. We've had a ton of great ones over the years. We've had great guest speakers. We're not giving them this year, but in the past we've given awards to like Fan of the Year, someone in the community who really benefited the local sports scene, things like that. So it's really a terrific program that Gerard and the Moynihan family and Moynihan Lumber family, I should say, put together each year. It's certainly not for profit. It's all about recognizing local student athletes and the great things that they do in and out of the classroom. And I'm glad that we've been able to continue it this year under less than ideal circumstances.
The other thing too, Phil, I'm a little bit troubled that Matt Jenkins gets a shout out here for a phrase like "tough times." I mean, really? I've heard that from other people before, Phil.
Yeah, was there more to that? I was kind of curious about that as well.
Well, but you got to remember, this is many years ago. Jenkins would say it in an ominous voice, and Matt was not one to waste words. So when Matt said something, it was meant. It was almost like that guy in the movie scripts, or what does that guy say? In a world where flying spiders, whatever, that kind of thing. So Matt would say it in his most dour voice, and it would come out funny. So, as they say, I guess you had to be there.
Maybe.
But it points out how much we miss Matt. What a great, great reporter, great sports reporter for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, great sports reporter, great guy. Willie, I don't know if you've seen him recently, but I saw him last fall. He loves Bishop Fenwick. He's got a legacy family over at Fenwick, and I saw him last fall when Fenwick won the Division VI North football title over Stoneham, I think it was.
Yeah.
And Matt was there with his son and daughter, and it was great to catch up with him and see how he was doing.
His son Brady, if I'm not mistaken, right? Brady?
It is Brady,
right?
yes.
Is he a hooper?
And if I'm not mistaken, he is a hooper, yes.
Nice.
Is he going into high school next year? Or maybe 8th grade? I can't remember.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think he's 12.
Okay, so going into 8th grade. I know he's older than my oldest, so my oldest is going into 7th grade, so maybe it is 8th grade.
Yeah. I think last year was his 12-year-old year for majors for baseball, so maybe he's ahead. But I think he's getting ready to start playing, so that's exciting. Matt's on the horn here. He says they're starting up, so.
He's texting you?
Yeah, I just sent him a message. Brady playing ball. He says, yeah, they're starting up. So there you go.
Boy. See, you don't get that on any other podcasts.
No, that's
breaking news. Brady Jenkins will start playing baseball.
Right.
Good news for everyone.
Playing soccer yet, but.
Well,
That's all right.
We have nailed the big stories here this week for sure. We've got them covered. That's for sure.
That's right.
I want to know.
Yeah, it's good. A lot of memories. Well, gentlemen, anything else? Nick, anything else happening up in Gloucester, in the Fish City?
Well, same as every place else. Just waiting to get. I haven't seen as much activity as these guys, unfortunately. I was hoping that there'd be some practices going on, but I haven't seen anything organized yet locally.
Phil, will you be at the Essex Tech rink next week when you get back on the job at the paper? I'm sure you'll carve out some assignment for yourself to get over near ice.
I may have to pop in and see Dr. Nagy and Mr. Hentosh and see what those guys are doing. Yeah, be good to be around the rink.
Nick G, any golf updates for us? Any golf news to share?
I don't know. Jordan Spieth shot a 7 under on 9 holes yesterday, so that was kind of cool. But no, nothing crazy. The Mass Golf is back up and running. They started qualifying tournaments this week, so they'll be kicking into high gear here. And we got a lot of North Shore guys that play in those tournaments, those amateur tournaments with Mass Golf. So that'll be something to cover, something to watch for, which could be cool. They're going to, I think the first tournament isn't until July, but they're holding the, qualifying rounds now at various clubs. So it's good to see that back in the swing of things, so to speak.
What was that event that they were going to hold at Tedesco this summer? It was like the 100th anniversary of something or another in August.
I don't know if that was that for Mass Golf, or that was just a local thing, I think. I could be wrong.
I can't remember. We talked about it, I know, pre-pandemic.
I'll have to look into it. Maybe they're still planning on doing that, but yeah.
I'll text Gary Larrabee right now so
Gary
he can
will
get the
know.
information. Yeah,
Gary will know. No fans, but so that's going to be different. But there's not a ton of fans at those things anyway. The amateur, it's a little different than the pros. Not to knock them at all. I mean, they still get some and family members and things like that, but definitely be a little different on the course.
Well, man, I think we could just stop here if we wanted to, unless there's any other breaking news that we're saving to the end of the program here.
Not yet, although I still think there may be a baseball game, before there's anything else. They said if they come to an agreement this weekend, the first game could be, July 19th. And even though the hockey and the basketball have had their agreement for weeks, I think their games won't start until after that. So I stand by my previous prediction that we could have a Major League Baseball game even before the other games are played, even with all this strife. I've not been paying a lot of attention to it. I've not been tweeting about it much because I think it's all noise, and
it's all about money.
They're gonna play. So why am I gonna get myself worked up about every little statement and negotiation and stuff?
Well, it's just they're dragging it out. I mean, what did they? The players proposed 70, and the MLB owners proposed 60. I mean, just meet in the middle and call it a day. What are they doing here?
Yeah,
like
65,
we're talking about 10 games. Yeah, just go 65 games, or if the players come back and say 66, whatever, deal done. Like, what's the big deal? I guess I heard overall it's like the difference in money there is the size of Steven Strasburg's contract.
Yeah.
So like 250 mil. It's like, what's that divided by 30 teams? It's it's small money.
Peanuts.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
yeah, I think
it's a
Matt's
little ridiculous to me.
I think Matt's right. I think that we got time, and they'll start on the 19th probably. That's my guess.
I hope so. Yeah.
That's why I keep moving our fantasy baseball draft back. Yahoo had
that's right.
All blocked off, and they finally opened up July draft. So I pushed it back to July, and knock on wood.
I'm in, baby. Stack City Gremlins coming for the
strategy this year. See if
please. You might as well just give us your money and bow out.
I had a good squad last year. They fell apart down the stretch, though.
I think the fantasy baseball will be very interesting this year with this because anybody can get hot for 60 games, and
that's
I usually try to be very slow and steady wins the race, right? Because the good players will be good eventually, but only 60 games. You're gonna have to snip. If you're not up to snuff, it's see you later time. There's not any time to waste. For a guy to go through a month hitting 150, he's got to go.
It's going to be interesting with pitching, too. You're going to have to be picking up guys left and right to get those starts.
Could be.
Fantasy baseball, next week's topic. There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. All right. There they are, the sports writers from the Salem News and, of course, Nick Kukuru from the Gloucester Times.